they are in there. All right, guys, out here on Bistineau this evening. It is blazing hot, by the way. But I was going to talk to you guys just really briefly about fishing on a budget. I talked a bit about this previously, about keeping it simple, and it's related to that. And so I wanted to show you what kinds of things that you can do in order to stay on a budget. Fishing is expensive, right? I mean, you know, crankbaits by themselves, I mean, one of them can cost up to, you know, 20 bucks or $40. Even swim baits, you know, they get way up there. But I've always found that the thing that you can, I think that you can remain in a good budget with are soft plastics. And I'd like to make the case to you that if you want to stay on a budget, that's probably the thing that you want to go to. And the reason is that you can catch bass on soft plastics year-round at varying depths, and it doesn't make a difference what body of water you're going to fish. Doesn't matter at all. You can get up into some shallow water that's only a foot deep or less, catch fish there, and you can go off to a really deep reservoir like Toledo Bend and catch fish down Carolina rigging in 30 or 40 feet of water. You can jig for fish out, and you know, with various types of soft plastics, like doing using a drop shot or something like that. So that it's very versatile. I think probably the most versatile thing that you can do. And generally speaking, depending on how you choose what you're going to use, right, you can stay within your budget a lot easier than you can if you're going to be out using other baits. I think, again, crankbaits, in my opinion, the most expensive, especially if you need to be able to vary your depths. You know, if you want something really shallow, you're going to need to use like a square bill. Well, what if they prefer this color in this type of water, this color in this type of water, which is generally true. Or if you're trying to match the hatch, right, match whatever's there, match the food source for the fish, you're going to end up with a whole pile of crankbaits. And that's just for the summer. If you want to go into the winter, it's going to be some other things. You're going to have to get really deep in the water. Those things shoot way up in price. And you got to have the equipment to be able to deal with that. You know, if you go with those huge baits that are diving down to 25 and 27 feet, they cost a lot of money. And so just to break one of them off, man, it really hurts. But soft plastics, right? The line that you use, I think it's variable depending upon where you primarily fish. I haven't found that using braid makes any difference at all in about any place that I've ever fished, with the exception of a couple of lakes that are ultra clear. And in those places where it's ultra clear, it may or may not make a difference, and it's probably going to depend upon a number of factors. How aggressive they are, how much pressure has been put on them, and a number of things like that. But soft plastics, really, all you need is a couple of things. I'm going to show you what that is, really. As far as hooks are concerned, if you get yourself some wide gap hooks, say 3, 4, or 5/0, somewhere in that range, or maybe you want some 3/0 and some 5/0, and a couple of flipping hooks, one pack, right? And far as weights are concerned, I still to this day only carry with me 3 sizes. I think you can get away with 2 sizes because most of the time that's all that I have. I'll have something like a 3/8 weight for flipping trees, using with a big flipping bait that I want to get down to the bottom really quickly so I can move on to the next tree. You want to be able to do that rapidly, right, so that you can cover a lot of ground. And then I have something like a 1/16 ounce weight, and that's for where I can throw a lizard, you know, a lot further than I normally would be able to because of that 1/16 ounce weight. It'll cut through the wind a little better, and it's light enough that I can still pull it quickly and keep it on top of the water. But if I want to throw it out to a tree or to a ledge or to a lay down or whatever it is and let it fall, I can do that. And when it does fall, it's going to fall a little slower, right? And then the third option, right, is just weightless with no weight at all. It's just a hook, and I can fish any number of baits that way. So what you have then with soft plastics is the ability to fish everything in the water column, from the top all the way to the bottom. It takes in everything. Instead of purchasing, let's just say, something like a whopper plopper or buzz baits or those sorts of things, instead of that, you can go with something like a rivet frog, where you're still using the same hook, now just weightless again, but you're rigging up a rivet frog on there, and now you've got the same sound and action as a buzz bait or a whopper plopper, and with the added benefit that it is weedless, right? If I wanted to fish sort of something in a suspending type of thing, I can use something like a Senko that's weightless, or with a very small weight, or maybe weighted on one end. There's a variety of things that you can do. Or I can fish a drop shot. I can put a weight down and have this thing sort of suspended up in the water and throw it out there and fish it and jig it around. I'm able to do that, so I can fish the middle of the water column. I can throw in the larger weight, and I can cast out and make the, pull it as a Carolina rig. I can fish it Texas rigged. There are any number of things that I can do very simply just with soft plastics. There's so much variety in that. And really, you don't need to have a vast quantity of soft plastics either. Like, I can take, let's just say, these 3 types with me. Something like a suspending bait, Senko, a flipping bait, which is like a crawfish, and a rivet frog, and I can fish the entire water column with these 3 things. Now, out for a fishing trip, depending upon how many you're going to catch and all of that will determine how many of these you need with you, right? Something like this 30 pack here, I can take just this one 30 pack and I'm going to be fine. I'll be able to use it for multiple trips. Something like rivet frogs just depends on how aggressive they are, how many times you can rehook it and all of that. But again, if I had just a couple of packs of each of these and a small box, right, with a couple of different varieties of hook sizes for the soft plastics that I want to use, 2 sizes of weights, 3/8 and a 1/16 ounce, I'm done. That's all the tackle that I really need, right? If I'm trying to get down to, just budget fishing, I can do that and occasionally buy a pack of hooks to supplement those that I've lost or that have worn out or bent or whatever the case may be. And so your tackle, you can be really light as far as the money's concerned on your tackle. The thing I still would caution you not to be light on is a good rod and reel setup. If you cannot afford a mid-range rod and reel, I would suggest to you to get something like a combo that is already set up, that is in, say, a medium heavy rod. You want a medium heavy rod around 7 feet long. It really doesn't need to be much longer than that. Probably not as good to be much shorter than that, especially if you're going to be fishing, let's say, off of the bank. In a boat, you can get closer to it, but if I'm on the bank and I really want to reach out there, I need a longer rod to give me more leverage. If I'm in the boat, and depending upon my height, I might want a shorter rod, right, to be able to flip and to do that without striking the water with the rod. But again, a lightweight setup that has the power to pull fish in, a medium heavy rod with a nice reel on it, right? A suggestion for beginners, right? Someone starting out, and you just said, I just want to get set up just to get a couple of things. I want to fish for a few weeks just to see how much I really want to get into this and see if I want to spend some money. I would suggest to do the thing that I just said with the baits and the weights, right? You don't need to invest in a huge tackle box or something like that. You can get a small bag, and all this stuff can fit in that one bag with you. And that will work also if you're pond hopping or if you're walking in somewhere. It's sort of light, one rod, and all of these things. Second thing is for the rod and reel, something like a Lew's, one of the Mock series, right, or the Crush series, are going to get you a nice rod and reel that's going to be able to handle anything that you're going to do, especially with soft plastics, right? I wouldn't suggest going with a brand that maybe no one has ever heard of. Lew's is fairly popular anyway. They do help out young people, and I would suggest someone like them. I do have some of those combos. They work really well. I happen to like, however, extremely light rods, and even something like a Falcon or an All-Star, if you can get, in fact, a Buku right here, But there's some of these Falcon rods are, I don't know, the $50 range, 13 fishing. Some of the Fate rods are $80, and maybe you can get them on sale sometimes for about 60 bucks. And you probably are gonna, again, you want to spend about $200 on the reel if you're going to get it just to buy the reel by itself outright. If you do that in just about any brand, you're going to get a very good quality reel. I don't know of any bad reels that you would pay $200 for. Now, again, if that sounds like too much money for you, then back up again on what I just said and go back and get a combo. Get a combo, something like a Lew's combo that feels good in your hand. It seems like something that you'd be able to throw all day. And as far as line, as I said earlier, that's up to you. I still use mono, like this one has a lot of times. Usually something in the 15 or 17 pound range is what I use. Personally, it gives me enough action and still have enough power to get the fish in. And I catch very large fish with this line. There's no problem. The other thing as far as braid, I do have a suggestion for that as far as brand. I wouldn't want to do that normally, I guess, but braid, I've had some really bad experiences. Maybe you have a different experience, but some braid, if you buy it and you string this up and you're an inexperienced fisherman and you go out and you begin to try to use it, you're going to have tons of problems. And the reason is because some braid has to be broke in. There's a break-in period. You have to cast and reel it in, cast and reel it in, cast and reel it in. And eventually it gets soft enough that it begins to handle correctly. There are some that are sort of pre-broke in, or they're a little softer line than the others. And the one that I use because of that is Power Pro. And I'd go with something like a 65 pound Power Pro, which is about the same diameter as a 12, 14 pound test, something like that. It handles really well. I'm able to flip long distances with that, and I don't have to worry about it. When I set the hook, the fish is gonna move and I can get them into the boat. So, and that is probably actually maybe more economical in the long run than using mono. And the reason is that that braid is going to last so long. Like, I can come out and use mono for a while and it begins to get scuffs and marks in it and things, and weaker in some spots. And I've had times whenever, you know, I'd set the hook and just the line comes back up because there was an abrasion somewhere I didn't notice. With braid, you're really not going to have that problem. I would say you're going to be able to leave that line on there for a full year easily. I have rods that have been longer than that with braid, still no issues with it at all. And so yeah, it's a little bit pricier on the incoming, but you're going to be able to set that hook and pull that fish in, and you're not gonna have to worry about your line breaking. Now, if you're one of those fishermen that are trying to be budget in a different way, let's just say you don't want to specialize in something like this. You want to have a variety of things. That's where it can get out of hand really quickly. And so if I could make a couple of suggestions here, right? If you're going to do that, let's just say I want to have something in basically every category. I would say, again, you're going to have to go with something like a larger weight, like the 3/8, a smaller weight like the 16th, still with the same couple of sizes of hooks, right? A couple of different types of soft plastic. And it's where it gets really expensive is when you start getting into spinner baits and everything else, because spinner baits now cost upwards of $15 depending upon the brand and the type and what type of hook and all the rest. I would say really you need two, okay? One that's a heavier 3/8 or 3/4 ounce with large blades on it that can move across the bottom very slowly, and one that's very light, much smaller, compact design so that you can burn it across the top of the water. That will set you in that category, right? Just pick sort of a color that seems to be maybe, that seems to have maybe a lot of the different colors that you would use. For instance, there are some that have purple and blue and chartreuse and white, everything all together in the skirt combination. Pick something in that range. That way it's going to hit that target no matter what, right? It's sort of a universal color. And you can do the same thing if you jump over into crankbaits. Crankbaits, again, you would need to have at least two, right? Something like a square bill. And that square bill would need to be able to dive down to 2 to 4 feet, something in that range. And secondly, a deeper diving crankbait may be something in the 6 to 8 foot range, right? And that would square you up on 3 different areas of fishing, and that would still be, by the way, sticking with soft plastic for your top water. If you want to do something for top water, you can get either a buzz bait or some sort of bait that does a walk the dog action, or even older style baits like a chug bug or a hula popper or tiny torpedo or something like that. You may want to have one of those. And so that variety, by the way, all of that would fit in sort of a small box, and it wouldn't break the bank. It would get you started anyway with basically everything that you needed to go out and to catch bass on basically any body of water that you're going to run across. All of those baits will catch fish on basically any body of water. But again, if you want to stay really budget tight, you need to pick something that you want to do, match what are the most popular colors and sizes in your body of water where you want to try. Most of the time, people are going to be willing to offer that. This particular lake, for instance, for me anyway, black and blue, those sort of color combinations have always done really well. And it's because the water has this sort of tinge to it. It looks like tea all the time. And I think it's because of all the trees that are in it and the leaves and everything else that falls in the water. It stains it like a tea. And the fish are able to see those darker colors in that type of water easier than they are the lighter colors. And the more clear that you get, the more toward a natural color that you'd want to go. Something like this sort of color here, right? This watermelon color or a pumpkin seed or something like that. All right. So I hope that helps you out, guys. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you're seeing, if you like the content. I'd like to keep producing these things. I just want to make sure that there's people out there that are appreciating what I'm doing. And I'm going to go see if I can catch some fish. Again, it's very hot out here. Water temp is up. We're going to go try to get them. See you guys in a bit.